the Transport Minister Ebrima Sillah statements at coffee time yesterday. And in brief, this will expose the incompetency. Ebrima Sillah have exposed the incompetency and during his discussion with Peter Gomez at coffee time. But more so, that what people know, the reason for that incompetency is corruption. The reason for the incompetency is corruption. And the evidence of the corruption would be known if Gambia ever have a competent government that will pursue to recoup everything taken from us. The entire Barrow cabinet and government administration, for that matter. I'm not saying everybody in the cabinet, but most of the people in the cabinet and the entire system surrounding the Barrow administration have robbed this country worse than ever. In the period of 7 years. In the period of 7 years. And they will continue to do so. And the evidence is where people like Ebrima Sillah and others, we all know they didn't have $500 in their account, not $100 sitting in their savings account. But if if an investigation was done today, we'll be surprised how much wealth these people accumulated in 8 years. And they'll continue to do this. And to note, before I go further, this is the essence to think about removing Barrow democratically by 2026. And that can only be done by a coalition government. Again, let me say this. I am not saying that a single political party cannot win at the ballot box, but I cannot see, or the cost of a single political party, winning Barrow and assuming office. That would take a lot of bloodshed, because these people will never walk away. We have to start to put that in our heads. These people will never walk away, because when they walk away, they will be stripped naked, and not literally stripped naked, but everything they own would be owned by put back to the state. This is something they know. They will do everything now. This is Barrow and the people around him to stay in power. Inshallah, the next program is going to look at the political climate and what needed to be done. Let's come to the statements made by the Transport Minister Ebrima Sillah. And this is the level of incompetency, and the corruption. Why is it interesting? All the people that Barrow have appointed, they are not the best that the Gambia have. In terms of knowledge, in terms of integrity, terms of experience. But one thing they have in common, some of them are proven to do anything for the person that appoints them. Some of them are proven to do anything the person appoints them for them to keep their jobs, but in Barrow's time, for them too to become millionaires. In the time of Jammeh, some of these people did it to keep their jobs and to have a little bit of whatever they look for in a job, but was not for the interest of the people. But they could not turn themselves millionaires because Jammeh would not let them. In the case of Barrow, he brought these people, knowing the skills they have in thievery, in stealing, corruption, but not the skill they have as good managers or their integrity or not, because they are certified. They are certified corrupt people. They are certified, known to be incompetent, but it suits Barrow's agenda. But in this case, they are in a very, very free enterprise of corruption that they can all become multi-millionaires within a short period. And the evidence of this, when Barrow retain Alaji Cissé, the chief protocol, from Senegal, from Senegal during the impasse, when people are thinking of lives and how to, assume office and all those things, Barrow was already walking the mats and retained Alaji Sise. We all know what Alaji Sise did. We all know. Before even commissions. You see, most of the things that came out of the commission, it's already a fact known. We could just have walked in there and investigate all these alleged crimes and prosecute these people without the need of a commission. If we want to reconcile, we could have reconciled by taking all the monies that's these people taken from us and make sure we invested in our communities, and then that will have helped. And all these criminals still locked up in Mile 2 and punished as they deserve. We know this. Barrow knew who Alaji Sise was. The only reason Barrow, appointed Alaji Sise was what Alaji Sise did for Jammeh. It comes from Mamboure Njie. Why do you think is Mamboure the only Gambian to become, and you know now he's in Saudi Arabia? You know now he's in Saudi Arabia? You say Mamboure Njie? You think why Mamboure Njie was brought into office again by Barrow? He knows. And not only that, when he was even adversely mentioned for what he did to the state, what did he do? He was exempted. And go and look at the people. The Tariq Musa, the Hadim guys, and all these kind of business people. What did Barrow do? He got them back to business. Because he wants what Jammeh was doing. But Barrow brought in some new ones, in fact, very close to him, his family members. He created recreated again the Kanilai enterprise by bringing in his family members into business, become business moguls now. Overnight. This is what the government represents. Overnight. And he brought in some new business people. The Haji Bani Sissoho of Star FM. Within a short period, this guy have media listings and all the other things. And he linked up with the others who were with this. The evidence is right there. But let's move on to. Even if when we look at these institutions, we'll find out. In the ports, at the Ports Authority, the only reason Jobati was brought back, adversely mentioned at the Jammeh Commission, for collecting foreign currencies and taking it and handing it over to Jammeh. He admitted to that. He was put there. It's not because of his knowledge, not because of integrity, but actually it's his lack of his integrity, not because of his experience. Not only that, people would not even realize who is the deputy to Jobati today. It's Barrow's nephew, something John. You see, that's why I said, let's crap about these politicians bringing tribalism within us. John, the surname is John. The surname is not Barrow. That tells you about nepotism, the problems we have, or bringing the people that will do anything to keep us. Let's just touch a bit about this Hajj operation. I'm not going to talk about debate about the food or the conditions. We all know what it is. And for Ebrima Sillah's statement at coffee time, what he was trying to do is, Ebrima being an old freelance journalist, he was trying to spin. Literally trying to close the door, in a sense to say that persuasively, yeah, we know certain things went wrong, but this. But he's lying. Not to be disrespectful, he knows actually what went wrong. He knows what went wrong. It was their incompetence and the corruption. That's why it went wrong. I'll give you things that he never touched on. He tried to make everything, the failures, to be about food. which he lied about. Oh, they have nutritious food, and trying to even be a nutritionist, which is a lie. We all have seen what was served. We all had evidences from our people. But you know the danger that these people are taking this country. They are creating a two-tier system in everything. They are creating two-tier system in everything they do. The have and the have-nots is going to be widened. And this is where you have, and they want to hold on to the state institutions to use that to repress us. By first, repression first is by, suppressing our rights, freedom of speech, and next to what, our elections, to maintain a so-called a democracy. And use the money they steal from us and manipulate our people, control a narrative. But that works for a while. The people will come out. This is what they're nurturing. We have seen that in our schools. We have seen that in our schools. That's where you understand how bad the corruption is. Tell me today, every Gambian family is forced to try to do anything possible for their children to go to a private school. And even some of these private schools are not fit for purpose, but now the psychology is the public schools are no-go areas for any parent that wants to see success in their children. They are no-go areas. If you are not lucky to have one of the mission schools, be the Ahmadiyas or be the Christian or Methodist schools or some of sort, you have to try everything possible for your child to go to a private nursery, to go to a private secondary school, primary school and secondary school. That's become a standard now, two-tier system. What happens to our people in the provinces? What happened to the people that can afford it? Because of this is what they're doing. Even to enter to university and others, this is how it's going to be. And you see what they created. But we have seen it in our hospitals. If you have to go private, you have to go Dakar, you have to go India, you have to go Turkey, and if you are really up there, you have to come to the Western countries. We have seen it in gated communities. We are seeing it in almost everything they do. But even during this Hajj, there's a two-tier system. Now, some people had to fork out almost $1 million. Almost $1 million. And I am not going into personalities, but if anybody understands what that entails, will understand how much corrupt the Barrow government is. Now, the people that that went over 500,000, and this is just the basics that they pay, have to be treated as, you know what we used to say, childhood, Getty Bay. Getty Bay. You know, in the cinema, you used to have I forgot what they call the best places, but you have balcony. You know the covered pavilion in the cinema? That was the best place. Then you have the balcony that was kind of in the middle bit. And Getty Bay was right in front. You will be so close to the big screen, you cannot even see the big screen. But why are they doing this? Because they know what they created. Now there are people, I'm not saying everyone that went VIP. I am not saying everyone that went VIP. But check the people that the government have sent, where they are, and some of the other people that are on the VIP list. This is a dangerous thing we're playing at. This level of capitalism cannot be sustained in our Gambia. It cannot. It's too small. Let's come to it. We have seen what ghettoism brought in America. We all seen what is happening in America. Even being in the so-called richest advanced country, we have seen the suffering and we have seen the level of crime and everything else, which is replicated technically. In United Kingdom. To understand the level of crime in London and other places where wealth but to the extent of some of these millionaires, billionaires now living side by side, because side by side in the United Kingdom, we don't have, we might have some enclaves of exclusion zone, but mainly in London, I can tell you, you walk from one street to another, it's different. And some of these people now, billionaires, can have to hire security because they cannot even leave their cars to walk into their these things. Now they have to, be scared to even wear glasses, expensive glasses, or watches and other things. Clothing, even now, they strip them off the streets under knife point and rob them. Their watches, chains, and everything. Now they have to start to hire private security, follow them, private security on their doorstep and everything else. They are not living in peace. This is why we have to understand again all the fuel, other source fueling the crime in the Gambia. Because the biggest criminal are the Barrow government and the people around the administration of Barrow, be the business people and the other cartels. Now, let's come to the most severe part that Ebrima Sillah just forgot about or did not need to mention. And respect to Peter. Respect to Peter. We know that, now it's where that I think it's good. Probably half of what we need to know or discourse is coming out from Peter. Half of it, which is good, but I think he could do better. There are a lot of evidence out there for Peter to put it to these government officers. But they are not coming through. They are not coming through. They are not coming through. I don't know whether he need to get more researchers and others to look into things. But Peter should not expect these people to come and tell the truth. No. Now, let me come to this. At Open Gambia platform, we reported about since Korete, when Ahmad Bey made that statement, talking about the Hajj. Oh, it's going to be so wonderful. It's going to be this, going to be theatrically talking about it, I'm giving credit to President Barrow. He asked us to do this. We have delivered that. I am thanking this central bank. I'm thanking these people. I'm thanking that. And all those sort of things. This is so much, this is what we're going to get when they have, all that statement was a lie. Actually, it was to cover up for what they have created. Because of their incompetence, they could not even understand basics that there's a reason why we have decentralization. They went and centralized operations and again, this is what happens. It's just like in military theater. When you have multinational forces and you are operating within the realms of the multinational forces, it becomes more complex. This is not a Hajj that only Gambians are going to the Hajj. No, that's not this. You have so many nations, bigger nations, more influential nations and everything else going to the Hajj. Then you should prepare yourself better of what you have to, Then you have to look at the best. But no, what they did was just to go for deals. When Ahmad Bey did that, operators reach out to us. And always, we don't run with something that, allegations or things given to us. We quickly make our due diligence. We look at the references. We went on Google to check distance, hotel locations and other things. Look at the ratings and nothing was making sense. That compared to what Ahmad said, everything no. It's contrary to what Ahmad have said. Statement I must say, but that give us the audacity or the this thing to even to take on the other stuff that we could not verify, because the only way we could verify some of this stuff was for them to be truthful, and they will never be truthful. That's why I never bother to contact any government officer to find the facts. Oh, you have to talk to them to get the side of their. So that's it. It's nonsense. Due diligence, a little bit of, these people are so corrupt and incompetent, little bit of due diligence is enough to, go with it. Let them come and prove it. Let them come and prove themselves. Bring them in the open. This is why our platform is called Open Gambia. We open up the, let them come out. Get them out of their rat holes. Now, When we look at that, something stands out. The area I'm going to come up is the airlifting of passengers, the pilgrims to Mecca, to airlift them to Mecca. Because what the Ahmadba did with his Hajj Commission, most of his so-called allies and whatever it is nonsense. A corrupt person is a corrupt person, regardless of his appearance, regardless of his declaration of trustworthiness and everything else. Look at what they do. Take them for who they show you, they are. But let us be critical. They went and centralized and took everything technically from the private operators. Whenever these things is exercised, Junior Jammeh, they tried it. They did it a few years ago. It doesn't work. This is what they did. And the airlifting, they went and contracted a company called G1 Investment Solution. You know, when you hear some of these labels, it stands out. G1 Investment Solution. If something like G1, go and Google it. Go and Google it. It's a lie. It's few people from, and you know, everybody operates from Dubai now. And I don't know, Africans, we are still fascinated. Oh yeah, he's in Dubai. Oh, he's operating. The biggest criminals are now operating in Dubai. The biggest criminals are operating in Dubai. But for African, hey, ki Dubai la neka, hey, ki Dubai la ligi, hey, ki consultant la Dubai. Fansu Bojang, the general manager of Gambia Civil Aviation Authority. His name is going to pop up many times. And Ebrima Sillah. And this Ebrima Sillah are the one that introduced G1 to the Hajj Commission and Ahmadba. G1 doesn't have the capacity. They don't have money. They don't have the contacts. They don't have nothing apart from just coming to countries like Gambia, country like Gambia to try and, because it's easy to penetrate our people. They invite them to Dubai, take them to certain hotels, give them breakfast, lunch, dinner, and promise them a cut of any deal, and that's done. They don't care about our people. This is how they become rich. And they will tell them, these people again, they will tell them how this deal have to be, sold to the government and to the people of Gambia. And straight away they identify Ahmadba will have to be part of it. And to Ahmad have to go to Barrow and sit with Barrow and sell it to Barrow. And Barrow, you see, if I say these things, I know because of, you cannot imagine it. You cannot imagine. I'm not going to swear. Never. I'm not going to swear about this. But I understand people that I genuinely cannot imagine this thing I am going to say. That Ahmadba would sit with Barrow and they discuss percentage. Not only Ahmadba. Ordinary Gambians are sitting with Barrow discussing percentage. Facts. Gambians go and sit with so-called business people. And Barrow would go out there and make demands. And they strike a deal. And they are shocked that a president would do that. They know that president would cut deals, but they would not raw as Barrow does it. I can tell you this. And Ahmadba went and sold this to Barrow. This is how they went and arranged everything they did in order to get their kickbacks from hotels and everything else on this flight. This G1. When we came out and put it to Gambians that this is what's happening, G1 is technically nothing. It's just few people roaming around Africa, making deals with corrupt governments. They don't have the capacity to deliver. It's airline leasing. We have Gambians. I'm not going to name names with thinking, oh, these are the people with talking to Ben. No. I have Gambians whose job is to lease aircraft. GIA have been leasing aircrafts. Why do you need an intermediary to take that intermediary and bring it to GIA? Why? Why interfere with what GIA does? Now, with this G1, some people just say G1, but it's GEWAN, International Solutions. Go and Google it. And France and DC, they made their deal. When we made our statement, G1 released a statement, but the statement was not published by newspapers. They released it to the stakeholders, reassuring them. If you go to my timeline now, my timeline, either my personal page or Open Gambia, you will see the articles we've written and their response and our response. G1 did that. In fact, we came back and even said, and even exposed more to say that they are not likely to airlift our people, or if they do, will be very risky. What they managed to do was they had one plane that they technically wanted to secure. That plane was going to go so many trips, these things, which was safety-wise. Even Gambia Civil Aviation Authority said, no. This is so risky. To use one plane to ferry how many these things going to and fro? The risk? No. But it was too late. They don't have what it takes, and we said that before. And how did we know that? Because only the name G1 solution, we look at it. No, you can trace this in due diligence, easy. Just as when that Senegalese guy, fraudster, whatever it is, Ablai Cham, came and said he's going to build $100 million hotel during pandemic. That's enough. $100 million hotel during pandemic. You mad? Even people that can do it during a pandemic, you think anybody will start to build hotels? When hotels have been empty. And Gambians want to buy that. We came out and said it's bullshit. And we haven't even done any due diligence, but the statement was only ridiculous, even for them. This is how disrespectful these people are. When we went on into the due diligence, within 5-10 minutes, the company name, the persons association, we should find audit reports against in Senegal. He have never completed a project. Everything is scam. Right now, he's the Senegalese authorities. It doesn't take much to do that. But our newspapers will just run with it. Our government will run with it because the kickbacks. And most of the newspapers, because of their incompetency, most of the newspapers, because of their interest, is that newspapers are survival, and that's what they they just have to put news out there. They won't bother to look at what has been communicated to Gambians. Now, this G1, when we said all this, guess what happened? If it was not for Air Senegal, Gambian pilgrims would not have left the Gambia. Or they would have to do something else. If it was not for Air Senegal, the last minute, they have to run to Air Senegal. They have to run to Air Senegal. Last minute. Now, this is why people that have relatives in this Hajj will tell you. They brought the dates forward. They brought the dates forward for Gambian departure. That's why our people are spending longer time there. It's not the generosity of the Hajj Commission, no. Because Senegal have already, you have slots. Senegal have already arranged everything. They're not going to disturb themselves. This is an extra, a bonus. Now Senegal said, okay, if we have to do it, we have to do it these days. Now the Gambia have to rearrange and get their slots moved for Senegal to take up the contract. This is how they left them for Hajj. You see, every aspect of the Hajj was a failure. And some of the people that flew with Air Senegal said that they flew in small aircrafts, that even the automated service of displaying the emergency procedures, everything was done manually. It's an old plane. It was done manually. It's not one of their best planes. Tells you this is what you have to take. Now, the problem now is, after the Hajj, immediately, Senegal are going to prioritize their pilgrims. Senegal is going to prioritize their pilgrims, and that will add extra days to the Gambians staying behind. And staying behind will cost those Gambians more. And, after doing everything that you want to do in Mecca, I can tell you, your feeling now is not that you detest the place, no. Because you're just tired and other things, and you just want to come out. But if you stay longer, you need more money. And people that have their families there, think about this. Probably your family members will not tell you. But if they stay longer, they need money. Because the little money given to them, for them, they calculate it before the Hajj, they go and do shopping, they buy everything that they need. And for extra days, they will not have nothing. I'm not saying everybody, but most of them will not. People, those ones who are supported to travel to Mecca. And this is something Ebrima Sillah would not tell you. He was part of it, and this is what they did. This is what they did. That's one. That's to address the Hajj issue, problem. I mean, what he did. The second one is the Turkish monopoly. And at the end of this program, I'll give you a brief of the Turkish imperialist agenda. We keep on talking about the West, talking about Russia, talking about India, talking about China. The Turkish. We will come to that. We come to that. Now, talk about the ferries. You see, the level of incompetency that a government can run a ferry service. They can't run a ferry service. Again, why? Remember the ferry service, if you remember the history of the ferry service under Germany. Just a short, we know the amount of managing directors brought to that area, and one of the managing directors was Jammeh's uncle. I forgot the name. That's where the biggest scandals have happened. The same person was taking managing director of Social Security. One of the biggest scandals happened. I forgot the name. I think it's Jiba. He passed away. But the level of corruption and incompetency, because of the people that many people were let go and other people brought in. The reforms. When we talk about reforms, it's not about the democratization of institutions. Instead of reforms of port authorities and the ferry service and everything. The minute the new government came, there were so many competitive interests from the Chinese, from the French, from the from the Arabs and other things. Even Dubai Wall. I'll tell you this thing about Dubai Wall. When Barrow's people threatened to sue me, and one of the international lawyers heard about this and contacted me. And this lawyer explained what have transpired during the negotiations with Dubai Wall. He talked about they took a private jet coming to the Gambia to do this deal. And they were in this environment. They were ready with government officers to discuss. And within that, before the meeting started, Barrow sent someone else to come and join the meeting. And this person was from the Njai family, Musa Njai family. And that person came, and as they went into it, and this person had the audacity to tell these people what Barrow wants from it. The lawyer said that they thought this was an entrapment. Now international companies are very careful. Entrapment, trying to get them on something. Their stay in the Gambia was cut short, and they left the Gambia because of Barrow interrupted and wanted a kickback. And when the Chinese people can remember when the Chinese jumped in, there was a deal and a kickback. To the extent that Bailamin Diop had to go from Senegal and sign the deal without the then managing director. Then the managing director was Tambedu. It's not that Tambedu was not corrupt. No, because Tambedu was cut out of the deal. And there were other interest groups lobbying for French company and other these things. The recommendation that the board did, Alpha Barry being the chairman, was ignored to do the due diligence for the deal with the Chinese. You know what stopped that Chinese deal? The World Bank and IMF. And Barrow have to return the kickbacks. And then Barrow had to maintain who? The guy at the ports now, Jobate. We all know why he brought, then he have to bring in Jobate to do the dirt. Recommended by who? Mamburinjai. You see the click, that's the Kabudu came back again. This is how the port was run down. But again, this is where the ferry service continued to run down. Because of, it was not restructured, it was not recapitalized, it was not, how to call it, capacity-wise. There's nothing. And nothing. For how many years? For 8 years. Running at a loss. Moving here and there. Because of the incompetency and corruption. That's all they were interested in. How to get something out of it. But remember now, the Turkish had a deal. And that deal again was what? To run parallel operations with the infrastructure, the present infrastructure that the ferry service was using. Who stopped that? World Bank, IMF, African Development Bank. For them, they would have just gone through it. But these people allowed, because of when you take certain amounts, you spend them, you cannot return them, or they don't want to return them. Now they have to allow the Turkish to run now the parallel operations. Parallel operations from where? From radio sheet. From radio sheet. Now from radio sheet, they're going to where? Fort Blaine. The ecological damage they're doing to Fort Blaine. The historic UNESCO, so many things. Fort Blaine could have been transformed into other things for tourism, but now it's these people, that's how ruthless they are. For the thousands of euros they will receive kickbacks individually. They allow that deal to go. Can you imagine? A government. Now, think about it. What's difficult about running a ferry service? What's difficult about running a ferry service? Now, you think that we have enough passengers that will go through this Turkish service and go to the ferry service. You have enough passengers to sustain a business. You think when this Turkish start to operate, you think the Gambia ferry service would be sustainable? Did we think that? And remember, most services will be coming from Combo. If they come through from Combo, they are going to get to radio seat first before going into Banjul. You think, are they not going to go to the Turkish? And the Turkish likely going to make sure they give the services required. Those vehicles, that's where the money is. It's not the passenger tickets, the vehicles. You think how many vehicles will be going to the Turkish ferry service? Because it's a lazy government, it's a government that is corrupt, knowing that what they're going to do next is the Turkish to take over everything. And if the Turkish will be taking over everything, the Turkish are going to make sure it works out the long term. Don't be surprised, almost 100 years lease for them to take over that. Because I can tell you one thing. For if the Turkish they're not stupid. For any company to invest, they have to look at the long-term sustainability of the business, profitability of the business, the return on investment. They have to look at that. If they are going to do it by adding years onto it, we will see. And I can tell you, there were long-term solutions. There were short, medium solutions that could have been taken to run this ferry service profitably and sustainably because of its vital importance. But strategic development would have let them know that we needed a bridge away from Banjul. We needed a bridge away from Banjul. The ferry service can end up doing other things, but we will need a bridge away to decongest Serekunda, to decongest Banjul and others. We would have need a bridge away from Birkam. Then then that would have opened up the Gambian economy. It would be easier to reach to Mali, would be easier to penetrate the other part of Senegal, be the Casamas, be the Salum, and towards Kaur from Kaur to Mali and others. And a little bit of history, you would have to not understand why Kaur was Kaur. But no, they don't think that far. And now if we have done it the time we were meant to do that, secure the good, best deals for the port, and work on the strategic development. Today, the threat we face from Senegal's strategic development plan, the regionalization of the economy, the port they're going to build in Ziguinchor would not probably even have been viable for Senegal. The port they have built in Foundiougne would not have been viable for Senegal. Why do you think Senegal is doing that? It's strategic. The Bissau port would not have been strategic. But today, you see, this is the problem with African leaders. Today, the Malis and others, Sahel countries, some of us are clapping for, are trying to go for a port with Morocco. And if you understand the complexity, how complex that would be, rather than working in, and this is again people who are talking about democracy and criticizing Sonko knew what he was doing. You think Sonko is going to Mali and others, Ivory Coast and others because of, no, he's doing it for Senegalese interests. It's not about supporting an anti-democratic move or anything, no. Sonko is trying to torpedo deal with Morocco, so that Senegal will continue to serve that. Now, Senegal, part of their development plan, they are looking at the railways, they are looking at roads, networks that would quickly, swiftly move things from Port of Dakar, to Mali, or to Niger, up to Niger. This is how leaders think. Not short term, the kickbacks are going on yet. And this is what the Barrow government is doing. You see, it's so sad that still at the basics, it doesn't take an expert, common sense stuff to Ferris. He doesn't even know how, we are planning to. How long does it take to digitalize anything nowadays? College students would have digitalized the ferry services. College students, if we have invested in education. But those contracts can be given to many Gambians who could have done that. Why will it taking this long? Why is it taking this long? Even how to incentivize, nothing absolutely. The guy was completely empty and exposed his incompetency. The only reason he was given how can you take, we keep on saying, with Demba Sabali giving agriculture minister. How can you take a freelance journalist? Yes, that's all he was. A freelance journalist. Today, which is reduced to almost any person who have its common sense and minds, even to be more strategic on social media. You take a Ministry of Works, Communication, Works, Infrastructure, and give it to them. It's because of the loyalty, knowing that the kickback is going to take. You know why Barrow fell out with Bailamin Job? Because Bailamin Job and Mambure others were cutting more than Barrow was expecting. But knowing that the inferiority complex in Sillah, or the appreciation of the position from Sillah would give him more. This is the incompetence and the corruption. Now, not only the ferry service, the ferry service will end up in the Moroccan hands. I'm not coming to the airport yet. Let's go back to the ferry ports. Now, can you just imagine this? In the First Republic, again, for those people championing Jammeh, They don't even understand what Gambia did to us. They don't even understand what Gambia did to us. Gambia in the First Republic, Senegal infrastructure. I know this. I used to go to Senegal and go visit the port. I mean, have relatives working at the port. By that time, Senegal had more with 8. They had 8 docking points. They have for fisheries, they have for minerals, they had for, containers, these things and other to 8. But guess what? It's not only the infrastructure, it's the policy. The red tape and other things in Senegal had ensured Gambia was the port of choice. Port of choice. If anything, they have to, Gambia will be port of choice. This is why Guinea-Conakry. Because another thing people don't appreciate, Gambia, our location. It's just around the corner. That's where Guinea-Conakry is. Many territories in Guinea-Conakry. That's why when you look at the composition, many Polo footers, they just live across the border with Senegal. The Kundaras, the Mali, Jembereng, and others. Even Labe is not that far from us. You see the possibilities to come from Conakry is getting better now because of the infrastructure they're building. Gambia, that's why it was ahead. And do you know what? From 1992, the same infrastructure, a little bit of improvement on the shipping things was done by the Jawar government. The port was efficient. The port was efficient. You see from Picton to God knows. You see the amount of goods and services being this everywhere else. Where the problem started to happen? Yeah, Jam. People remember. Can you remember when Zainab's father and those group of friends came and started that company in inspection something company, which I had to drop later. Started to bring in more red tape, made more difficult, and the incompetency, bringing his family members, over recruiting and all this kind of mess. The port started to go down. The infrastructure did not improve. The port development could not be done. By 1992, 1994, so many things were going to happen with the port and the airport. There was already a strategic development plan to transform the Gambia using our ports and the airport as envisaged by the founding fathers at the time of independence. Say that it's not the mineral resources we have, it's our people. But we will want to make sure we have ports and jetties to bring in the produce from the provinces, but again to make it possible for Gambia to trade within the sub-region. That was the strategy. This is how the PPP government took the transit trade and make it the second biggest income earner for the government. From agriculture, they brought in the transit trade. From its colonial roots to what it is today. Not only that's how they came about the master plan and brought tourism to what it is. For a government to be competent, you have to produce. You have to produce, and you have to have a service industry. But what does these people do? Hand over, hand over, hand over. You know what the handover is? Kickbacks, kickback, kickback. They don't care about the future. Mortgaging. And you see some of the short-term mortgage you hear, 25 years, 30 years. I tell you, it's going to be extended under this government. Unless we remove them democratically. Or people will, because of them, if they keep on making sure we cannot democratically remove them, undemocratically, they will be removed. It's not a threat, I'm saying. This is facts of life. Now, imagine what insult this is, and prove what we said. We made programs, and I said, look, the problem we have in the ports is incompetence and corruption. Now, if the president was not absolutely corrupt, that he's benefiting directly to the corruption, he's cutting deals with the managing director, board members, and others, we will not have this problem. All you need is efficiency. Once you are efficient in the port operations, and many Gambians have the competency, they are all over the world doing it and other places, we will even generate more. The congestion started at the tail end of Jammeh's time because of, again, the incompetency. You see, corruption is one thing, but the corrupt and incompetent is disaster. You see, you can be corrupt and be efficient, and your corruption would not so much. But if you are incompetent, it's just you kill the cow. It's just having a cow, able to manage the cow. If you are efficient, you can manage the cow to make the cow, have the way to feed the cow, knowing how to feed the cow, what to feed the cow, and to make sure the cow produce enough milk. And what you do with that milk, you make butter, you make cheese out of that milk. And if you sell milk per liter, it's cheap. But if you use that milk to develop cheese, butter, and other, extract other things from it, you make more money. Now, if you start taking $100 a month from that cow, nobody would know, because you have generated so much income. But if you just take that cow, you don't even feed the cow well, the cow is not producing enough milk, or the milk is producing is not is inferior, and next minute you have no enough milk to sell, or the milk you have, you cannot add value to that milk. But you are taking 100 pounds. You don't think the cow will die? The cow will go all easy. This is what is happening. It's simple. The ports. The Turkish came in 3 weeks. Efficiency. They said to Jar Oil, look, we invested in this. What investment? They did not invest in the port. They invested by the kickbacks. The first lady, Sidinjai, how to call it? Ebrima Sillah, this thing. Some of them have apartments in Turkey. They invested in them. Corruption to get this contract. Now we give them a cow for them to manage that cow. 3 weeks efficiency savings. Rerouting things, telling Jar Oil that we are not going to allow the hogging of the port. That's why Jar Oil run out of stock quickly. We are not allowed that. You cannot hog the port with 3 shipments and everybody to wait for your shipments to deliver. You see, the corruption. Now, Jar Oil cannot have four these things. And again, it happens that where Jar Oil was taking cement from, competition, the prices have gone up. Do you know why the price has gone up? This is what they cannot articulate. They are blaming the tariff in America. Yes, but not exactly that. Because America, my understanding for what they're saying is America was getting cement from Vietnam. Yeah? Now, it doesn't even make sense. Let me not even go there. The more I look at it, it doesn't make sense. But this is what happened with our port. Now, this efficiency savings, stopping Jar Oil from hogging the ports and making sure that people are at work on time. People, when they're at work, they do their work. Not even additional machines. Yeah, to yalla, no additional machines. You see, these people even make us to look like slaves. All they did is they brought few managers to look over them, overshadow them. That's all. To make sure people come on work on time, make sure people do what they meant to do on time, and make sure things move out of the port. And it is congested. And look at the mindset. The same that Ebrima Sillah should have. The same this government should have to admit that it's because of their incompetence and corruption. And they want to applaud the Turkish as if the Turkish created miracle. No. Now, the Turkish are using our income. That if the president was right in the head and interest of Gambia, Gambians could have done this. Not employ people for their loyalty to you or what they do for you. Gambians would have decongested the port. The Gambians would have gone, make sure the port efficient, money, revenue would be earned, and that revenue would be managed to make sure that we might need less, in fact, to build another port. Now, all the Turkish are doing is taking that revenue to, in the future. I'll tell you, you're not going to see a port now. That's a lie. Because the Turkish are not going to bring in money to build a port. Even little money they're going to bring, it's not going to come. They're not going to take it short from it. It's the exec bank of Turkey. They're going to take from the Sanyang port. Now you can say, oh, now we're not going to do it here, we're going to do it there. They will bring in bureaucracy and red tape whilst the revenue is coming. And again, the Turkish have the freedom. There's nothing to hold these Turks accountable. What they're going to do is, what they are doing actually, and I have proof of this. If the Turkish said that the operational cost is 100 million, that's a lie. Probably the operational cost is 25 million. Now you see what is going to happen to your contract. In that clause of that contract, this is why they will not show you the contract. Because the Turkish wrote the contract and passed it on to them. And there's a proof of that. It would take so many years. The Turkish would make so much money. Because of the Turkish know that some of these things do go south. If it goes south, they have already made money. But again, the Turkish have a way to guarantee that thing will not go south, to protect their investment. That's where I'm going to come in at the last. This is what Barrow have done to us. Look at the Africa. Not even to manage a bridge. The Senegal bridge. We all know what happened. That's why they will not show you the contract. Now, even what they have said was a lie. Oh, they're going to give them 100 million. They never gave them 100 million. In the course of the contract, they will get 100 million. But if I can make $1 million a month, why would I need 15 million as an advance to hand over my port? Why? Because of the laziness, because of the kickbacks they get. This is what happens to our ports. What the things I have said, allegations I made against the Turkish company. Again, when these things happened, when they started talking about the Turkish company, due diligence. We went online and see what they did to Guinea-Conakry. What they did to Guinea-Conakry. Same thing, took their ports. How they took the ports, the kickbacks given to the families of Lansana Conte and others. And how they operated the port and inflating the operational costs and orders. And the development they said about the Guinea port, they did not do that. Until now, when the other mineral companies, iron ore and other companies had interest, this is what developed the port of Guinea, not the Al-Barak company. That's one. Go and look at Ethiopia. What they did in Ethiopia. The same thing. The Ethiopian airport. The Ethiopian ports. Asafra, not Ethiopia, sorry. Somalia. The same thing. Inflated operational costs, kickbacks, and other things. And this is where it's going to be interesting. How they strategically position themselves into Somalia, how to call it? Somalia national security, guarantor. And I can tell you the Turkish will be playing the same game in the Gambia. Guarantor of Somalia. Now, Somalia rests their security on Turkey. Their existence actually on Turkey. Now they have to, Ethiopia push, they will be there. Anything, they will be there. Military and other things, political. Now they determine who leads Somalia. The Turkish do. I don't have time. I can tell you what they did in Libya. The Turkish are the guarantor of the interim government of Libya, the national government of Libya, and how they did that. The oil exploration and other stuff. You think they do it for free? We'll come to that. Now, let's move on to the other side, the airport. The airport, again, we had Ebrima Sillah talking about this airport. Let me first make this point. I agree. I spoke to people that know and I have looked at other places. Gambia Civil Aviation have to have their statutory role separate from managing the airport terminal. It only happens in small countries or some countries, and they never transform themselves. They have their civil aviation authorities to manage an airport terminal. Airport terminal is a completely different business. The Civil Aviation Authority are there for operational safety and the most important thing, safety of the airport facility itself, the entirety of the airport. But the business aspect of an airport terminal is done by business people. Makes sense. That makes sense. But there are two separate things here. For Gambia Airport to be viable, to be what we expect it to be, there are two fronts, policy. The regional policy of airline operators. Look, liberalize, we talk about liberalized air distinction. That's not real. In paper, might be true. But I can tell you, no government within West Africa or Africa, in fact, is going by this. They are not going by this. And if that was done, I can tell you we'll be better off. You think up till now, 2025, why is it that you have to travel to certain African countries, you have to go to Asia, or you have to go to, you have to go to Europe in order to visit those countries? This is where the problems are. I'm not saying this is not the fault of Gambia, but these are the challenges we have to recognize. And when our people, policy makers, talk about development, they should be, realistic and be factual about this. But there's a bilateral. This is where Gambia have a control. Bilateral agreement between Senegal. I tell you, since Barrow came, it is at a disadvantage to Gambia. Technically, we have created a monopoly for Air Senegal. Certain things we cannot access, just as they did with the fisheries deals. We cannot access some of the benefits in connecting markets. That's why certain airlines cannot, come through Senegal to the Gambia. If they have to come through Senegal, they have to drop the passengers for Air Senegal to move them to Gambia. Domesticating our airport. These are the things that we have to look at. What interest do we have here? I'm not an expert, but these are the things I'm asking that we should put, that these are the things that Peter Gomez should put to Ebrima Sillah to discuss. And if, I'm not saying Peter would be an expert, but Peter have the opportunity to ask them. And if he asks the questions, Ebrima, bring out answers. And if answers are not right, there will be people that will contact Peter and say, oh, last time you have Ebrima, he said, that's not true. This is how we work now. This is how information, this is how things are done now. Peter should do a little bit more research to get researchers. I know he can't do it alone, but I know he has people working for him. But these are the things. Topically, he should have people to investigate. What is the agreement between us and Senegal? Why isn't, so someone was talking about Delta coming to Gambia and stuff like that. No, it takes a lot more. And the infrastructure as well. It takes a lot more. That's not a problem. That can be done. Again, you have to have the leadership. Leadership matters. You have to have the leadership that will appoint the competent technocrats to do the work without fear or favor. That will do it right. People that have knowledge, experience, and the expertise to do it. People that have the international recognition, have done it other places. There are many Gambians to transform that country. But a good leader must be a good leader. If you have a leader that's just look for the cuts, you will never do that. I agree that the airport terminal operations and everything should be let with business people do it. Gatwick Airport is not owned by government. Heathrow and all other places, these things, no. They are not operated by government. The airport safety and operations are done by agencies that will be held accountable. But you see, how is it even in experience Ebrima is? He started to say, yeah, so that when the lights go off, you cannot even believe this is a transport minister trying to sell or explaining the policy around what they want to do. Ebrima just showed, it's so sad. You see, even when they get to these jobs, they cannot develop themselves because the interest is not there. Ebrima could have relied on briefs from his permanent secretaries, but most of his permanent secretaries are the same. And they don't have the knowledge. Yes, they might have their masters, their doctorates. We know they have no knowledge. You engage them in their own field. As a layperson, they cannot convince you. Probably you understand more than they do. It's not arrogance or anything, but these are facts. This is when you have, again, this is the failure of the reforms we are talking about at the civil service. Civil service reforms. Again, you will not like the Jawara government, but I can tell you one thing. Come to the civil service. Before you become a permanent secretary, before you become a deputy permanent secretary, before you become a director, technical, I mean, you will have the goods, well trained. But again, let's come to this. Why do I say about the airport management? You know, it's gonna likely 90% that is gonna go to the Turkish. Why? Because the Turkish understand how to get these contracts. I am aware of two. One is led by a Gambian to get into this contract. One is led by a Gambian to get to this contract. I cannot vouch for them, but in the discussions, what they said they want to do, I would have, that is what we should be looking at. But it's not likely for them to have the contract. It's going to go to the Turkish because the Turkish know what to. Just as the Turkish get the port, the Turkish got the ferry. That's how the Turkish are going to get this. And the kickbacks will be going to these people. That's how wealthy the NPP would be. You see, the kickbacks go to individual NPP guys. You know what you call the gatekeepers, Sidin Giants and other gatekeepers, and other people. Then the stakeholders, the transport ministers, the minister for that, minister of finance, they take their kickbacks. But another kickbacks go to who? The NPP budget, so that they can do their politics to maintain themselves in power. Let me tell you why this. Again, the evidence I will lie here. Fansu Bojang, I said that Fansu will come out again. To show how corrupt Barrow is. Some years ago, this is about 2019, 2020, it started. The ambassador in Turkey now, Gambian ambassador in Turkey now, Alkali Conte, Silaba, and others, gatekeepers, went to Barrow because of to represent an interest. There was an airline company, I forgot the name of the airline company, that was operating from the Gambia. They had about 4 aircraft. It was a Sudanese-based aircraft. A Sudanese businessman that was a friend of the government, you know how these things work, fell out with al-Bashir. They fell out. Then he got one of his partners or friends to move the operations from Sudan to the Gambia. And they were operating in the Gambia. When the government of al-Bashir collapsed, this guy was released from prison. Then he moved down to the Gambia to trace, because this guy came to the Gambia and register and to do all that. He came down to the Gambia to trace these properties. His friend now refused to give him the properties. Now this guy took a lawyer and went to the courts in the Gambia and filed an injunction. An injunction, a stay of execution, let this operation stop and everything. The courts granted this, convinced the court, and the court forced the assets so that the guy would not run away and take it away, so that the case will be heard in the courts. And if I can remember, Ami Bensouda was the lawyer. It's not in any negative form. Just to give you meat to the bone. Was the lawyer for the person that filed the injunction to stop this guy who took it from him to take it away. This is where the syllabus samates and the alkali contest came about. They went to President Barrow and said that, this guy assets are froze. And this guy is ready. Again, I'll say this. People will be, how can no? This is what is. I'm laughing. It's not funny. This is what we have as a government. The evidence is there. Any day that is investigated, we'll find out. They yield to the president because the president cannot make the court unfreeze it. For the managing director of Gambia Civil Aviation Authority, by then it was Ablai Jammeh. For Ablai Jammeh to release this aircraft to the guy that was entrusted with the aircraft. That is defying the court orders. Ablai Jammeh said, no, sir. They have to go to the courts, and the courts will have to take that decision. But sir, I cannot take this decision. It's illegal. I'll be held responsible. Ablai Jammeh was removed and transferred to the diplomatic missions. That's what Barrow does. Ablai Jammeh resigned. Say he's not going to the diplomatic mission. Thank you. I am going to politics. Now, Ablai Jammeh is the leader of the NUP party. Then how Fansu Bojang came into this? Fansu Bojang, people that know him, was at the civil aviation authorities. I think that one time he was even a director of commercial director or something. He had the competency. It's not about and everything. But at this time, Fansu was already transferred in the civil service. I think he fell out with Jammeh and whatever it is. But at this time, he was either in Qatar or somewhere in the Middle East as a diplomat. Barrow went and brought Fansu. And Fansu, as the managing director of Gambia Civil Aviation Authority, Fansu did the thing that Ablai Jammeh refused to do. Now, you see now, if someone would do that, what does that tell you? If the president will go that far to break the laws and everything, and that person to allow to break the law with the president, the other person refused, now that's a kabudu. Now, if these people, Ebrima Sillah and others do, by the time Ebrima Sillah was not there, yeah, I think it was Bailamin Job, yeah, Ebrima Sillah came into it. But if these people look into control anything, you think they're going to do it to the interest of the people? Interest of Gambia? No. It would be interest of Adama Barrow and themselves. As I said, during Jammeh time, you are scared. If you don't do it, this thing will happen to you. You do it, and you might have crumbs in it. But these people, not that something will happen to you. You might lose a job, but you don't even lose the job. They'll transfer you to another job. You transfer to another job because you want to silence you. But if you allow it, not that you keep your job, you become a multimillionaire. If you conduct an investigation, I know some of them are putting their children's name, those old school nonsense. They don't know, I think they don't understand forensic auditing. They don't understand how they cut. Let them go and find out in Senegal what is happening right now. This is what is going to happen to our airport. Again, it's not going to be the interest of the people. Yes, the things have to be separated, but it's not going to be interest of the people. And I can tell you, 90% of likeliness is Turkish companies going to take it. Let's come down. I want you to keep this brief. Let me come to the decision now. The Turkish deals, the strategic interests of an imperialist nation. You see, this is the sad part. We don't have a civil, foreign affairs ministry. You see, the importance of a foreign affairs ministry finance, Minister of Finance. In fact, some cases, they will say, oh, interior, finance and external affairs. But in this day and age, I can tell you even external affairs would be more important. Why? Resource mobilization, external affairs, the big finance, Minister of Finance need. Security, strategic alliances that we need for internal security run the external affairs ministry play the biggest role. That's why we Tangara coming here saying nonsense. All they know about external affairs is open embassies and sit at the embassies, do nothing. And that's now start breaking deals. They don't understand how to represent our interests. Countries sell their nations through their external affairs. Their strategic development plan and everything have to go through external affairs. That's why their national security goes through external affairs. The national intelligence, the external part of the national intelligence run through external affairs. All the embassies in the world, in developed countries, are what they manage the intelligence of operations, external operations. But for our intelligence to look for who against Barrow, who doesn't against Barrow. That's all. They tell you they have reformed the SIS. What they reformed, they will not physically arrest you and take you to NIA and torture you. What else would they do? That's the failure. Because Barrow doesn't listen. Now, what the Turkish are doing is very dangerous. And this is what the Chinese, you see, all of these people, Indians, Chinese, Americans, but Turkish are doing very similar what Americans do, but more ruthless. More ruthless. Let's look at this. If you understand the imperialist nations, Turkey was one of them, the Ottomans. The Ottomans. Understand when they lost their territories, they came down, say this, after First World War, Second World War. When Kemal Atatürk took over Turkey to transformation of Turkey, what Kemal Atatürk did was to the boundaries of the how to call it, the territories to the Kurdish mountains and everything, geographically and socially to control that space as a Turkish republic. This was trying to consolidate power, because if Kemal Atatürk did not take that posture and to reform, to minimize the territory and to capture these things, Turkey would have disintegrated into even more autonomous or independent nations. You could have three Kurdish nations within the Turkish Republic today. As a forward-looking leader, he understands the strength they have. He understands the boundaries, the enemies they have, be the Iranians, be the Arabs. Even though they are all Muslims. If you understand even why the Ottoman empire failed, it's because of the Arabs. And how the Brits and Western nations undermined that. Remember the threat coming from the Russians and the former Russians, other territories they control. That's where the reformist movement came about. Kemal decided they need to keep the republic a secular nation. The doctrine become a secular concept and a republican concept. The army, the education, everything else, and what science, technology, women emancipation, and other things. The classicals use in other way, and for decades, Turkey able to maintain and continue to fight proxy wars. With the courts and others that the Western countries were supporting. If he did not done those transformations, Turkey would have been disintegrated. But times change, the geopolitical strategies change, then you have the resurgence of the Ottoman doctrine. Through who? Edward, the Islamists. The Islamists was two fronts. Who was the master stroke of the Islamists? That was the Gulen movement. The Gulans. The Gulen movement. The Gulen movement being the spiritual and ideologies of the Islamic movement. They came into partnership. They started to strategically move to take over power through democratic means. Power in the sense of democratically winning elections with controlling municipalities. Conservative values from the rural, mobilizing to bring it sophisticated. Sophistication that are accepted within the civil, how to call it, the secular state. They challenge the secular state with very progressive, the Gulen, I said, movement, and they capture the state. It was just this capture the state. And the political arm was, you see, the Gulen was an intellectual. The army and the Brotherhood was the political arm. Until they consolidated power, bringing Edward from, to even take over, not Prime Minister as the president. If you look at the trajectory to Suleiman Gould and others to where they are today, you understand the transformation. To Kemal Atatürk and others. When they took power, they poached the secular from the army. They know how to take power. The secular move away from the army. Poach the generals, retired generals, the police and everything else, because they already infiltrated the police and control the police, the interior, the gendarmes. This is why that so-called coup, that was not a coup. That was to consolidate power, finally to justify the overreaching powers that the Turkish need. That was one thing domestically. Then this time now, they took over power from what Kemal worked. You see, this is how government works. With the achievement of Kemal, of maintaining the territory of Turkey, the republic and everything, now with a secular state, now they came with the ideology and everything to take over power. And this is how they manage to use now this ideology and their strategic thinking to silence the courts. If you look at the role Turkey played with the NATO, the role they play within NATO, the role they play in the Iraq war, in any crisis within the sub-region, Turkey would stand through their strategic interests. This is how they defeated the Kurdish movements. Because of they went into territories not within Turkey, but in Syria and Iraq and others to dismantle them. The backdrop of any operation you want to destroy, you have to destroy the backdrop. The backdrop was the Kurdistan movement, people's movement in that Saddam Hussein had. That's why Turkey was interested in that Iraq war. Today, the Kurdistans have surrendered. The role even Turkey played with all the rhetoric you hear from this thing, Edward. When they wanted to capture the Kurdish leader, Abdullah Gül, something Gül, in Kenya, the Israelis did it for them. They contracted the Israelis to do it for them. Kenya is the Africa's biggest operational hub for the Israelis and Egypt. That's why we have to be very careful about this rhetoric coming from these Islamists. They work with the Israelis when it fits. Just as they work with the Israelis to depose the Syrian leader. They work with the Israelis. That's why we have to be very careful, have a sophisticated government to understand this, foreign policy to deal with these issues. That's why to give the credit for Jawara. Now, when they did the colonization, what happened? You cannot have two captains in a boat. Now, Edwin have to put, Gulen movement. That's why he framed that coup d'etat to go for the Gulen movement within the interior and other ministries and the educational things, and kill them off. And took a policy that any country that hosted the Gulen movement would be an enemy to the Turkish state. This is why even the Gulen movement that started in the Gambia and other countries, educational things were killed off. Now taken by the doctrine of the Islamist Brotherhood in Turkey. Now, this is where we have to be very careful. This is the background, just to tell you, an imperialist background, just as the Americans. Because we are easily. Now, this is the soft diplomacy these Turkish have. They use their military to come and say they're transforming your military. And I can tell you, this is how they guarantee their investment in the future. There will come a time you dare not betray the Turkish investments. Because most of your generals, most of your colonels, most of your company commanders, and not only, it is Turkey that you see they take an entire battalion and train them. Your technology, your everything, your intelligence is controlled by Turkey. And you'll be in fear that if you betray Turkey, they can change your government. Just as the Americans do. You think when we give, or we're giving up military equipments. No, part of that too is the economy. If Turkey give you a military vehicle, you have to buy the spare parts from the Turkish. Even the Turkish give you a helicopter, you have to buy the spare parts from them. They are not giving it to you. It's part of the strategy. And because of they are within your, they're giving you this, training your security, taking off your security and all these things, enhancing your security and others, they have influence in you. In intelligence, we call win confidence in order to influence. But not that. Your parliament, your politicians. I am not saying that it's happening now in the Gambia. But when they operate in Somalia, technically all the Somalian groups, political opposition, and what is controlled by the Turks. When it happened in Guinea-Conakry, they control the opposition. Now they are trying to control the army, the leader, because it's a dictatorship now. All you need is the leader. Until they see a threat from the opposition, they would. Gambia, I am not sure whether they control the opposition. And I don't want to say something insulting to the opposition. Probably they just meant good. They don't want to touch anything that's not be influenced. Or probably they don't understand how to do these things. But if any opposition become a threat to this thing, Turkish will find a way to reach out to you. Whether you accept or not is one thing. And most politicians want power, and if they feel that with Turkey they can get power, they will take the money and they will be controlled. I'm not saying it's happening yet, but this is eventually what's going to happen. They will invite your parliamentarians, they will invite your technocrats. Most Gambian technocrats now will sing the hymn sheet of Turkey, or Turkey, or Turkey, or Turkey. When they sit on the negotiating table, they don't look at the interests of the Gambia. They look at the perks they get from Turkey. Turkey will invite them. No, come over. We pay your per diem. That's why if a civil servant go out there to be proud, no, my per diem was not paid by the Gambia, it's by Turkey. You are even more of a sellout. There's nothing wrong with the Gambia paying your per diem if you deserve that per diem. If you're going for the Gambia, interest of Gambia, you should be looked after. But to say, no, I went there, they invited me because of they want this, they are the one paying their per diem. They are the one hosting me. They host you in the best hotels. And I don't want to be disrespectful to technocrats. But intelligence, we know what we do. Some of these best hotels, we know what we do. They know, they choose. You don't choose the room that you go to. You see, when you don't have control, you are then controlled. You don't know the room you're going to. They know how to place, nice women. And I can tell the boys, in fact, some of our technocrats, boys, yes. Yes, Mhm, mhm. We know. We know some of the technocrat boys. And what? One day, that's something that you sit down on a boardroom, and the night before you go to the boardroom to discuss projects or these things, someone somewhere will just send you something in your at your phone and remind you your nice trip you had in Turkey, the beautiful hotel you were, the room, how the entertainment you have in the hotel, and the kickbacks. They control technocrats. They control the politicians, as I said. They control our security and military intelligence. Because of they go train them, they keep them, and so on. This is what imperial nations do. But what about our media? You see, look, most of the TikTokers just go because, talking invite you is good. Social influencers, they invite them, talking. Or training, conference. Oh, there's a conference going on. There's an expo going on. Come here. We pay for you. We give you allowance. Because they want to control the narrative. That social influencer would not want to say anything about Turkey and others. We see the Russians doing that in controlling the entire content that fits in Africa right now. We have so much people thumping their chests, talking about Pan-Africanism. They don't even understand that the content they create is not normal coming from their head. They've been fed by the Russians. Especially with the AIs and all these things now. And these social influencers, the so-called Pan-Africanists now today, are influencing all the African youths for social revolution and the military to take over. We don't trust them, democracy anymore. We don't trust politicians anymore. As if when the army take over, they are not politicians. They are the worst of politicians. But even now, these intellectual Gambians, Africans, have tuned into this. Oh, you see the transformation here and there. And they have no proof of that. But they have tuned into it. Because what intelligence does. I say, because we Gambia, we don't have intelligence. That's why people don't understand it. When you say intelligence, they thought it's NIA. But this is what they do with nations. That's why I said, this is what they represent. This is when you have an foreign policy. Now, the Turkish charities will come in through the, how to call it, their operations, ideology, Muslim, and go in and control. All decisions of society will be controlled by the Turks. That's why their contracts and everything they have it and they maintain it. And you think Gambia would develop under that? You think we'll be satisfied on that? Will come a time the youths will rise up. And this is where social revolution will happen. Yeah, as someone is saying now. You see, what Trump is doing is trying to counter by using the, not the soft diplomacy, but the hard diplomacy, the muscles. That's why he's pushing to rearrange everything through hard diplomacy. That's why some nationalist Americans, they support Trump. This is what they say, that, okay, this is the only way we can recoup and reposition, which is not entirely true. It works at a level, but, down the line, but the only thing that would backlash if African nations and other developed nations started to think and counter these things. And know how to strategically negotiate with Turkey, negotiate with Russia, negotiate with Iran, negotiate with other partnership. But not that. We are just being consumed. We are consumers. This is where we are going. And finally, as I said, I just want to keep it here, but we'll look at these political issues better. But I just wanted to respond to Ebrima Sillah and expose the corruption, incompetence, and the risk these people, the threat these people are putting onto us. Turkey is not our friend. Turkey is not our friend. Yes, I'm not saying we should not deal with them. I'm not saying we should not have military corporations. We will not have commercial corporations. We will not have the other things. But let's put it in the mix. We can have the Westerns. We can have the Easterns. We can have the Northerns. We can have, in fact, more importantly, Africans. That's why when I talk about the airlines, I said we have to really, they will tell you, you go AU, this thing, even ECOWAS. Look at the corruption that Barrow because of his interest. Now, even cement, we cannot, and we are still stranded. For how long? We can say, oh, we have this protocol, we have this bilateral agreement, but doesn't mean anything. Guys, thank you very much and have a good afternoon.